Fight fire with fire. All right, well, we're recording, so I don't really have an intro planned.
You should have an intro.
Should I?
Yeah, you should.
Like
Let's work on it right now.
Welcome to the Duke London podcast.
Yeah. And then you have to go back into editing and then make it sound really deep.
Hello. Welcome to the Duke London. Like one of those. No.
Why did I come here?
So I shouldn't do that.
No,
all right,
probably
cool.
not.
All right, sounds shit. Cool. Thanks for the support.
It's all
I
right,
appreciate
babes. I'm always here for you.
What do you want to talk about?
I don't know. But I like being with you.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
This is nice.
Yeah.
We're relaxing each other. It's cool. We got this.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So me and you've known each other for a long time. I feel like everybody I've had so far anyway, I've like known for a long time, which helps, I guess, to like have stuff to talk about.
How long has it been? About 10? Is it 10 years?
I think longer.
Do you think? Bloody hell.
We met in like Trocadero days, or no, before JoJo's.
Way before. Yeah.
It must have, because
like
I started
Plan
dancing
B,
in like
JoJo's. Like,
yeah.
I
I started like 2007, so it must have been like 8, 9 that we met. So yeah, 10, 11. How I was thinking about also how to describe you on it, because I was gonna like give you a little
Oh, I hate these parts.
bio breakdown kind of thing. I was like, Duran. How do you say your second name?
Abdullah.
Durah Abdullah is a multi-hyphenate creative based in like.
It just all makes me cringe. Honestly, that's probably like the thing I hate the most, when someone asks, especially if it's someone that's not in like the creative world, and they ask me, what do you do? And then I feel like I sound like a proper prick when I say, oh, I create and I direct and I do this, and I'm like, ugh. It just like I always end up downplaying what I do. It's because they sound like really glamorous, but in reality they're probably not as exciting as maybe some people think. They are, but yeah.
But why does that make you feel like you? Why does that make you feel like a prick for saying it? Because those are what you do.
Yeah, no, it is. Do you know what it is? I feel like I'm really sensitive to people's like just people in general. So like, say if I'm talking to someone that I know works in a job that they don't really love,
right?
And I know that about them already, and then they ask me out of politeness what I do, I feel bad to say, because I don't want them to turn it onto themselves and to feel bad. Right.
And also because I guess the things, like, you don't necessarily feel better than them.
No, not at all. No.
Because we know the realities of what these jobs include, and they're not that glamorous.
And I can see people's behaviour sometimes change when they don't know what I do, and they might go on my I don't know, my Instagram, for example, and then I notice their behaviour towards me changes. And that makes me feel a bit uncomfortable, because I'm like, well, I respect you just as much no matter what you do.
Because they think kind of like what you're doing is like,
they just think higher of me, like
right.
I can just tell that they have like respect when they see my work. And sometimes I see people give me a lack of respect, then they see my work and then they change, and then I'm like, that makes me feel funny about you.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
I
know what you mean, and I actually feel the same as well. But I try and like keep a kind of level head about it, in the sense of like, it, like I often find myself like defining people by kind of what they do, maybe not with their job, but with their kind of day-to-day actions. You know, like it's not so much, I guess, what I think of the person. It's more like kind of what they show me that they do in real life that I like define them off. So then I guess I think the thing with our lives, like creative.
It's a good English there, sir.
Creatively wise. What am I trying to say?
English.
Like in the creative circles, our life, I think, has connotations beyond just job. Like we don't show up to work at 9, leave at 5, and then leave the office behind. Like it kind of, I think it gives you an impression of who that person is. So to be able to do the things we do, you can kind of tell a bit about the person.
Yeah.
It might like, and this is where I'm like, I go back and forth, because I'm kind of the same as you, where I'm like, I've had that with dance a bit, that like people might not give a shit. And then I had that actually in a battle where I did a 2-on-2 with someone, and we didn't know each other before the battle, and then we kind of were like, oh fuck it, like let's do it together, because we both don't know anyone and we're both not going to enter. And the guy was like, cool, yeah, cool, blah, blah. And then I did my prelim with him, and after the prelim, he came and sat with me. He's like, oh, bro, it's going to be good. Oh, how are you? Like, wait. But because I like held my own in the prelim, and I didn't like...
How did you feel about that, though?
For me, I was like...
Did it make you feel good? Or was you a bit like,
It's a bit of like shallow feeling good, if you know what I mean. But it was kind of just a bit like, I don't see it as like after he saw me dance.
Yeah.
I didn't see it as like, oh, you now have like a false version of me. It was more like, oh, you've seen the real me now, kind of thing, like that I am talented or whatever. And like I said, this is the thing where for me it's like, okay, but it's not just like, oh, you're a good dancer, so I want to be friends with you. It was more like, there's like loads in my head anyway, when I think about people, there's loads of knock-on effects. So it's like, okay, you're a good dancer, that means that you're dedicated, that means that you work hard, that means that you care about stuff. So it's like, oh, this is someone, if you've put this much time into this discipline, it shows these things about you. Whereas like I kind of get that with you of like, say your Instagram and stuff, it's not just your work, it's like all what your work says about you. That kind of gives me that impression of who you might, I might be wrong, I wouldn't because I know you, but like someone else might be wrong about you, but it kind of gives you impressions beyond just the work. And I mean, I do this I guess in the opposite way, in a bad way sometimes, where I'm like, you know, when people are at a job they hate, and they work in an office and they kind of tell me, oh yeah, I work in this thing but I hate it, I get a bit like, I make judgments about them as a person immediately, and I'm like, oh, well, you're the type of person that doesn't have the courage to, like, you know what I mean? And it's such a shitty way to think, I guess, but like sometimes it's true.
I think it's like, it's a very human thing, 100%. But then I think on the flip side of it, I know people that are in jobs that they hate, but I know them personally and I know that they're very talented, for example, and there's certain things that hold them back. So I don't know, I kind of look at things from, wow, I just nearly yanked the tea bag out.
That would have been a great part of the podcast, especially because I'm not editing anything, so this is all going in the video.
So yeah, basically nearly yanked out the tea bag because I'm fiddling. Oh my gosh, stop fidgeting.
If you want more tea, we can get our in-studio assistant to bring you some more tea.
Yes, where is the studio assistant at? Tea, please. No,
he's not. Our producer at the moment, we have a guest producer today, and he's playing Call of Duty.
Yeah,
so
he's broken right
being
now.
very helpful.
What were we talking about? I can't remember now.
No, but basically, like you were saying that after people see your work, they kind of, their perception of you changes.
I think it's natural. Like, I don't judge them for that because I think it's really human. I think I would probably change it in some way as well. But
you'd rather they kind of approach you with a neutral.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm not saying I don't want it to come across in a way like, oh, I think I'm so great. It's not even that. It's just, I think actually it probably happens more in the creative industry than it does outside, because outside people are more likely to be like, oh, that's really cool, you do that, like it's something so different to them that they're slightly more objective. But I think there's a lot more insecurity within the creative industry because everybody's trying to stand out, so
that's interesting.
So sometimes that could be it, but there's so many, I don't know, there's a lot of angles.
But I think also it's like it can be with the, I'm just going to turn this, I think also with the if you're not in the creative industry, like we were saying before, some of the stuff that we do sounds mad like exciting or prestigious, and it's not, and we know that from the inside. So if you said to me like, oh, I'm working on a music video this week, and I'm like, oh cool, that's good, but then in my head I'm like, okay, but maybe it's not the type of music video she wants to do, maybe the budget isn't great, maybe the working conditions are shit, maybe the dancers she's working with are shit, like there's loads of things that why working on a music video might not be a great experience for you. But I guess if you're outside of the creative industry, oh, I'm working on a music video, they're like, whoa, I just worked in the office today and you're on a music video. And it's like, it's cooler, I guess, than an average job, but still can be shit, you know, like depending on what you're doing or who you're working with. So I guess that I get that from you. I get what you're saying with that, where people can kind of feel like it's a cooler industry than it is, I guess. That's what
I'm saying.
So anyway, what I was going to say to you as well about this is like, because you were asking me about the podcast before, and I was going to say to you, but I was trying to like hold off not saying too much before we got on the podcast. But
go on.
The thing that's stressing me out about this a bit is that everything that I do has to have like a plan, or maybe not a plan in the sense of I'm going to do all these things, but it's like where the next step is. And I know all the way from beginning to not end, but like success, let's say, of how it looks. And the goalpost might change as it goes, but I kind of take comfort in the fact that I know what the next step would be if I wanted to take it. With this, I started it not as a reason to like succeed or make money or something. I mean, if that works, then great. If I get money from this, I don't know how that would even work. But because it was more of like a, I guess, passion project or thing that I wanted to use to express myself and push myself into a different like challenge, I guess.
Yeah.
I've been trying to not have a plan with it and not think too far ahead, which is for some reason more stressful for me, because I'm like, I think about...
It's not what you usually do, right?
Yeah, and I think about it and I'm like, why am I doing this? Or like, I finish an episode and I'm like, did it. And then I'm like, okay, what did I achieve? I just put out another thing. Maybe no one's going to listen to it. I don't, you know what I mean? It's just kind of, I have to have faith in that I'm doing this for me, which I feel like maybe I don't do a lot of stuff for just me.
Yeah.
It's more for the journey or more for where
I think
it's
that's why sorry to butt in. No. I feel like that's why I was really excited for you when you started this, because I could see that it was coming more from like just a passion place, if that makes sense. You weren't really overthinking it. So I think everyone's going to see like the journey of that, which is really like, it's a vulnerable thing to allow people to see you like so doing things when you're not great at it yet. Yeah. Like I feel like that with like nunchucking and stuff. Okay. Like for those of you that don't know, I've started nunchucking very casually. And
as random as that sounds, that's exactly how random it is.
Yeah, literally.
She just decided to do nunchucking just because. And that's Deedee.
Yeah, that is me.
That's a crash course in Deedee.
That's the yeah, that literally is. Yeah. But no, I think.
But that's also dope. It's exactly kind of the same thing as this.
Yeah, no, that's why I feel like I can connect with you on that for sure. But you have to find that space within yourself, I feel, to just not be so harsh and to allow yourself to go through that process. But to remember, I know it sounds so cheesy, but you have to remember that it's actually fun.
Yeah.
Like, especially when you're not being paid and you're not paying anyone else.
There's more freedom.
Yeah, there's more freedom. So just say whatever the fuck you like. And if people don't like it, then stop listening.
Yeah. But I think also it's all the others. Like, I mean, right now I'm enjoying this. Yeah. But it's all the other stuff around, even watching it back.
Do you
editing
get like cringed out and stuff?
A bit. I just get a bit like, because also I never do this. I never speak on record myself speaking.
Yeah.
And I'm very rarely on camera when I'm not dancing. So I hated acting, anything like that. I've had to record a few like video submissions for projects and stuff to instead of like writing an application. And just watching those back is like 1 minute of me saying, hi, my name is Luke and I would like to do this project because, and I feel like an idiot. So doing this, watching it back, editing, like paying attention to all my little habits and stuff, it's like, it makes me feel super vulnerable. And I think everybody else is seeing me how I'm seeing me. So it's, my point was like, it's very different to everything else I'm doing. Photography, video, dance, everything I have a bit of a plan with. Like I even started practicing like making music and stuff. And I'm not good at all. I barely know what I'm doing, but I know where that would go. I'm like, okay, I start doing this. When I start to hear better, then I go and like have conversations with people. I start letting them listen to it. I start getting feedback. Then I go to the experts. I learn from, I know what the step is. This, I'm just like,
could just go anywhere.
Find as many friends as I can and talk to them. And then
when I run out, we stop.
Yeah. That's kind of it. Like, yeah, it's interesting. But I was going to say, I feel say from watching your work from, I guess, a bit of an outsider perspective in the sense that I'm not working with you every day, but I'm still your friend. A lot of the stuff I see you post and I see you do it seems to be, you're not one of those people that's posting like on this job, here's stills from this job, here's a video from this job, blah, blah, blah. You're more like posting projects that you want to do. It seems like to me, or a lot of the percentage is stuff that you want to do and linking up with friends and creating stuff, and you know you'll have the job in there. I know you're working and stuff, so but do you create from a place of like, I'm building an empire and this is a step on the ladder and I'm doing this to have this perception, or I'm doing this to work on this skill, or is it kind of I woke up today and I felt like creating? Like, do you mean like, am I calculating it more? Yeah, like where does your creativity come? Because I feel like my creativity comes from besides this podcast, it comes from a place of another step on the ladder. So even if it's messing about with a friend, taking pictures, in my head I'm like, okay, well, he's a guy, and at some point I might want to shoot fashion photography. So in my head, I'm thinking about how would I shoot a guy who was shooting for this lookbook or this, you know what I mean? And even if I'm just messing about, I still have in the back of my mind, how could this contribute to my overall journey? Whereas I guess from the outside with you, I don't know if that's the case with you, or if you're just like because your ideas are so varied and so different, and so it can be that you're doing a dance class one day, it can be that you're like doing a photography shoot. With that. Really?
Yeah, I used to struggle with the fact that when I say like, because your Instagram almost becomes like your diary in a way, depending on how you use it.
That's true.
But when I used to like, because I have my moments where I just scroll through and I'll try and look at it from like an outsider's perspective, which obviously you can't do because you're just yourself.
Yeah.
But I'd be like, God,
I do that every time someone likes it. I go back on my profile. Yeah. Like, how would I look at my profile if I was that person?
Yeah. Which I love doing that. But then sometimes I'm like, God, I look really random, or who is that person? Or sometimes I'll like ask my boyfriend, I'm like, can you tell who I am as an artist just from scrolling, or do I just look like someone who doesn't know who they are but is a creative that just likes to do random things? And he thinks there's a consistent thread.
I think there is
throughout all my work, which I hope the consistency is me.
But I think that's what I was going to say. I think your creative consistency is like who you are and your essence behind all the projects. It's just in the sense of a business perspective. I don't know how much of that is linked and how much of that is because anything that you create, even when you did your you customized a whole load of clothing and did your own photo shoot in that clothing, even the way you customized that clothing, I can tell that was you. Like even if someone showed me that, I'd be like, it's like one of 3 people and it's probably Deedee. Like so. But then it's like, say even customizing clothing, was that just like, this is my hobby and I enjoy that? Or was it, this could contribute to I could be...
Not at all, actually. No. I'm really not calculated in that way. Okay. I think I like to surprise myself.
Yeah.
And I really honor whatever I'm gravitating towards, so I don't dismiss anything, even if I'm like really focused on something like I don't know, maybe it's just focusing on making money and teaching. It's usually when I focus on that something else will come up from behind me and be like, actually this is what you're going to be focusing on, so I will go to that and then I might come back to the other thing. But what I've realized over time is to just not limit myself and to trust in whatever comes up. And actually, I think in the last year more than ever, I've realized that I'm a lot more capable to do more things than I thought I was. So actually now I'm probably less sure of what I want to do in terms of my work and in my future than I was maybe 4 years ago, when for me it was really clear and it was all about, shui and like really about teaching and building a community. And I think as I've started to see who I am as an artist and as a person, the ceiling has kind of been removed and I'm like, oh shit, actually I think my imagination isn't even cutting it. Like I think there's so much out there for me that I don't even think is possible. So I'm just kind of like, well, let's just see what happens. And I'm finding from that mentality, I've actually attracted more of the type of jobs that fit with me. I'm working with more people that I feel like are like, not like me, but that I just can be myself around. So I'm kind of like judging my experiences from that. If I feel like I'm hanging out with people that make me feel like myself, that can teach me something and that I can contribute to as well, I feel good. And with money, I never really see it as like the driving force, but I know that there's a shit ton of money out there. So I'm always in the trust that it will find its way to me. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does. But I guess in a logical sense, or logistical sense, I don't know what the right word is. When you say like attracting you work, or the type of work you want to be doing. Yeah. How do you mean? Do you mean more putting it out there that you can do these things has attracted people to say, oh, well, then I'll pay you to do those things? Or the more you just feel like it's kind of things are coming to you, the more you're trying? Like, do you see it as more of, are you saying attracting in more of a kind of spiritual way, or are you saying it in the sense of
I don't even think, I wouldn't even categorize it into spirituality, because I think we can all agree that like everyone has a vibe, everything has an energy, like it doesn't have to fit within that spiritual, because I know like people like to box things, and sometimes people switch off as soon as like that word comes into the conversation, or it can make people like want to listen even more. I think for me it's just the more focused I become on myself and on my work, I'm just noticing that it's just creating the right opportunities for me, regardless of whether or not I decide to post it.
Yeah.
If I've done a really intentional post because I want it to connect with people, just building myself and building my confidence, I think it reaches so far out that you're not aware of it. Like, it's something that you can't necessarily grab onto, which I know some people find that difficult because people want to find a formula, put it in a box, and then be like, right, that's it. That's the thing that's going to make me succeed. But I think that always changes.
Yeah. And also, I guess people find find comfort in routines and habits, you know, like if they feel like what they're doing is working and they can keep doing that. And that's especially where we're not so...
Well, that's where you get confidence as well. It's like through habit, obviously, through realizing that things are working.
Yeah.
I actually feel like I hit more walls when I was being a little bit too strategic.
Yeah.
I think that took away, like that had started to take away from the work that I was doing because I was more aware of the external rather than focusing on me. And then I noticed that definitely had an impact on my work. So I was like, just fuck it, just do what I want.
Yeah. And I think especially if you're, I really stand behind this. I think I even have it on my website, but that like an artist isn't necessarily defined by the medium that they choose to express themselves with. Like,
absolutely.
If you're an artist, I kind of believe, and for everyone, I believe that you're an artist. Like if you, and to a certain extent, I do believe everybody's an artist. Like I don't feel like there's no one that has how do I phrase this? Like I don't think that there's no person in the world that doesn't have this is a mess of a sentence.
Stream, I don't know.
I don't think you could find a single person in the world that didn't have an artistic outlet somewhere. Yeah. You might have to dig and you might have to like get them to try loads of stuff, but everyone has something that they would have in an artistic kind of way, I think. And then there's the whole conversation about what even is art, but we don't have time to get into that.
Bloody heck.
But I think also it's like, I get people saying to me stuff, and especially people that are more on the outside of my friendship circle and stuff, are saying, oh, you do so many cool things and you're good at so many things. And I'm like, I don't actually think I am good at that many things. I just do things. And I think that's the difference. I think you're like that as well, where it's like, you don't need to feel like you have a talent for something to start it. You're I want to do this.
I think that's all it needs. It just needs that you want to do it, and then that's it.
A lot of people do say, like, I've spoken to so many people that I say, just kind of non-dancers, that I say, oh, why don't you go and try to take this dance class or something like that? And they say, oh, I can't dance. I was like, well, yeah, that's why you go to a class. You don't have to be able to do the thing to start doing the thing.
I say
you know what I
all
mean?
the time in my classes,
like, And there's so many people that kind of don't do extra things because they feel like that. I haven't already shown a talent for this thing, so I'm not gonna do it. When I first bought a camera, when I first went to a dance class, when I first started my podcast,
everything at one point.
So I think, and it depends on your motivation and your way of doing it. For me, I think I have more faith in my ability to get good at stuff than anything. I don't necessarily think I'm talented at these things or that I'm any more creative than the average person. I just think I'm good at, like, okay, I want to be a photographer, so how do I get good at that? Or if I was to apply that to this, of like, I want to be a podcaster, how do I make the most success? I'm trying not to, but I have faith in that process in myself. Whereas I think, I would say with you, I don't see that you're so like that of, I need to get good. You're more a thing of like, I've got something inside I want to express, I'm going to do it via this or this.
I am.
Are you?
Yeah, some things I am. Like with nunchucking, for example, like I want to get good because anything in between is shit. Like for me,
how do you mean?
Like with nunchucking, you can't just be like a beginner nunchucker for the rest of your life and be satisfied with that. Really? In my opinion,
I know literally nothing about, like,
I don't know too much about it either because I'm still at the beginning. But I'm just using that as an example. Like with certain things, I want to experience it in its like best. Like,
how come? What do you think the motivation behind that is?
Because I can see the freedom that is at that point. And so for me, it's always about the freedom.
Right.
So which is really interesting, actually. I feel like I'm just discovering this about myself even now.
You're welcome. Therapy with the Duke London.
But say, for example, if you go on my Instagram and you see that post where I've like customized like the backdrop and I've done like the clothes, I didn't know how good I would be at that. I mean, I used to customize clothes back in the day, but I've never done it in that way where I've like drawn on stuff. And I was like, oh, this is like really like therapeutic. I'm finding that I'm expressing myself like really well with this. Yeah. And so I got that release. And now I don't feel like I need to do that every day, or I don't feel like I need to improve on that so much, because I already established a point of freedom with what I have.
Like, you didn't need any particular skills to feel free in doing this creative?
Not anything more than what I already have.
Right.
And I'm not, that's not to say I can't get better at it, or I couldn't have created
But just for
something
you to
better.
feel like you're at a point of freedom with it.
Yeah.
There's a certain level of skill set that you get to, and you're like, okay, now I feel free in this thing. I don't need to, or I don't care.
Exactly.
Do you feel like you fall off kind of giving a shit about it, and you're like, oh, I'm bored of that thing because I can feel free in it?
I don't think it's boredom, because the one thing I've realized, I just go like round in circles in a way, and every time I go around another circle, I've improved on the last set of skills, and it just keeps happening. So I've done customizing before back in the day, but this time when I did it, I was a lot better than before, but I haven't practiced those skills.
Yeah.
So I think as kind of going back to what you said before about being a creator, being an artist, I think it's informed via all the different mediums, and so it's your mind that goes into those projects differently.
100%, yeah.
So it's not necessarily that I needed better sewing skills or better drawing skills. Just I'd worked my mind in such a way that when I went back to it years and years later, it just was so much better than what I'd done before.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay. So I probably will go back to that again at some point.
Right.
So it's not necessarily bored of it. It's just I fulfilled like
that moment.
That moment. It was there for that moment, and it was really fun.
Yeah.
But there's only certain things that grip me and keep me consistent, and those are the things that I have to work really hard for.
So when something's more of a challenge, you're going to spend more, invest more time into
like
it.
Like nunchucking, you can't just pick up a pair of nunchucks and just be great at it.
Yeah.
You'll smack yourself around the face.
Yeah.
Like I have
Yeah.
so many times. But yeah, that is more of a challenge, because I'm like, okay, when I do get to the point of being free, that will probably stay in my life for a long time, because it's taken me a long time to get there, rather than something that I just picked up, and in a few weeks I put it together, and I was like, oh, okay. Yeah.
That was easy.
Yeah, it's like a fix, like a drug fix for your creativity. Like that's how it feels. So yeah.
So when you're doing stuff like nunchucking and stuff, you're doing it more from a place of giving yourself a challenge rather than trying to achieve anything in particular.
I see them as like self-investments. So like dance, for example, definitely nunchucking, teaching, all of these, like probably the things that I've just been doing for a really long time. I see them as like relationships that I'm building with myself, and then ones that eventually I kind of reach out to other people, I guess, with them. So they become bigger than myself. So yeah, that's self-investment is literally how I see them. Like, because you're working through like all of your insecurities through that whole process. Yeah. Like, oh, I'm really shit at this. Oh, I'm really good at this. Yeah. Oh yeah, I just got a new move, or I just managed to do that. Oh, wicked. And then, oh my God, I can't do this thing. And it's taken me like bloody 4 weeks to just get one simple move, which in my head I thought I would be really good at. So then you're constantly having to like work on this relationship with yourself to keep going that one step further.
Which you can apply to
Which you can apply to absolutely everything. So I feel like those things always stay with me for a long time, because I'm having to dig a lot deeper to even get half decent at them. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing I was going to say is that I feel like one thing that artists could maybe struggle with that I think you don't, or from an outsider perspective I feel like you don't, is that say we're trying to work, and even people that are doing part-time jobs or full-time jobs or doing freelance, it's quite a luxury to be able to self-invest and to be able to just try stuff for the sake of it. Like even this podcast, if I was working full-time and doing photography and dance, I wouldn't have time to do this shit or learn how to do it or to edit, or like I wouldn't have the money to invest in this or whatever. So I think it's quite a luxury to be able to do that. So how do you balance actually working and like paying the bills and doing stuff that's kind of, I guess, immediate progression for your career? Yeah. As opposed to like just things that you're like, I don't see the end product, but I know this is going to help grow me as a person. Because I think that's what a lot of people miss, especially it's so vital in the creative field to invest in yourself and your own creativity just for the sake of creativity. But then people need to make money and need to do work and need to get jobs, so they end up spending all their time doing the productive things or the
things that they need to do.
Yeah. And they don't, I guess, grow as much. I've had problems with that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I still struggle with finding the balance of that. I think sometimes it will get to the point where I'm like, shit, I'm broke. I need to bloody do some work.
Yeah. That's me right now, to be honest.
Yeah, like, and that does happen.
So if you're out there, hire me.
Please.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably an ongoing journey, I guess.
Like sometimes you get it wrong, sometimes you get it right.
Yeah, sometimes I get the balance really right and that feels good, but sometimes I'm just totally off. But then, to be honest, I think when you have been doing that for such a long time and you've never died from it, you kind of just think, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
And I know it's like that's not necessarily the most mature or smartest way to go about it, but I guess when you prioritize certain things more than others, that will always win for me, because for me, my mental health is like really important to me. If I don't create and if I don't move my body regularly, all of those things, like it will start to have an impact on just my mental state, and then I can't work. So I need to do both to keep myself healthy. So it's sometimes more from a need of like necessity to survive mentally rather than it is like having the luxury to... So
you would say that kind of, I guess, you're trying out new creative avenues and experimenting with your creativity is kind of part of your self-care routine.
Yeah, 100%.
As much as like taking a bath after a long day is kind of thing.
I mean, I used to... sorry to go off a little bit off topic, but I used to work as...
There's no need to stay on topic for this.
I used to be a visual merchandiser for House of Fraser.
I remember. Was that when I met you?
Probably, maybe you might have even known me before that, but you would have known me that
I know
time.
You did during that because we did that fashion show thing for you.
Yeah, oh my god, I forgot about that. So that I was in House of Fraser for about 4.5 years, and I built myself up to visual merchandiser with like no experience, just literally having a creative eye and just having a mouth to tell people I wanted to do it.
That's a big part of everything, is just having the confidence to say, I can do that.
Yeah, and I like really believing in myself. Like I used to see like people doing the job and I'd be like, I could do that, or I can do it better. Yeah. So
I have a point about that, but we'll come on to it later.
Yeah. So I did that for quite a long time, and I got very comfortable in that job because to a certain extent it was like creatively fulfilling, because I get to like dress up mannequins and do shop fits,
and you're also getting a normal wage kind of
I'm
thing.
getting a normal wage, so I had that stability as well, which was really nice, and I was able to like buy into like my fashion my fashion passion. That's so lame.
Rhyming is terrible.
Gosh, but I used to like go out and buy the clothes that I wanted, like all of that stuff, and it's a very like addictive thing to be able to do. And then every few months or so, like I used to come to this point where I'm like, I'm just making this shop fit look great so that people can buy the stuff that's in it to make money for this business that is nothing to do with me, for people that don't give a shit about me.
Right.
And it's not going anywhere. Like it's not feeding the world in a positive way. And I just realized...
And probably like a lot of knowing you probably paid a lot of attention to detail, and maybe people didn't even take that
100%. And like you'd put your heart into something and then someone would come over and just like move it and change it. And it would affect me emotionally. And I'm like, I'm so sensitive. But that was something that kept coming up for me. And during that time, I mean, I like to draw things together and maybe see it as a sign to some degree, but it definitely makes sense now why I was getting so ill as well around that time. And I suffered like with kidney stones for like maybe like a lot. Well, I still kind of have it, but I was in hospital maybe 4 or 5 times a year having operations.
I vaguely remember.
Yeah, it's not. To be honest, I always forget that I have it. It's really weird. I don't go around, talking about it.
But I do remember a time when you. I think I remember a time when you telling me like you're in and out of hospital.
I was really ill, like a lot. And that happened in the time that I was at House of Fraser. And I never, you don't ever think, it's anything to do with your work. Like, how is that connected at all? But obviously there's proof. And I think everyone knows that stress levels and stuff like contribute massively to when you're ill.
And also it's like, not even maybe directly, but like, if you're more stressed, you're going to pay less attention to taking care of yourself.
Exactly, like there's so many factors. And I just remember like just going around in this circle, just constantly ill, being back at work constantly ill, and I couldn't do anything. And then it wasn't until I got seriously ill and I had to be off work for a long amount of time that I ended up visiting like all my creative outlets in those recovery periods. And that's actually where I built most of my skills, was in those times of recovery. So I learned how to do sewing, I learned how to do like customization for like nails, and like just all these different things that I just kind of took on during like recovery periods. It made me realize that those things were uplifting me and making me feel a lot healthier. And then the minute I went back to work, I just started to feel pains, and I don't know if it was a mental thing that I was doing, but every time I was stressed, I'd be convinced that my kidneys were hurting.
Right.
And it was just, and I was like, this is really like getting too much. And the minute I stopped working there, I'm not saying I healed, but just the amount of times that I went to the hospital or the amount of times I felt ill, it just like, honestly, less than half than when I was working at House of Fraser, 9 to 5 type job.
So how did it... Let me think of what question I'm asking you. After that, was that when you left and went full-time freelance kind of creative?
No. Well, after that, I was like an events organizer for a nightclub. So I went into that.
Where
but
was
that was in North London.
Did I know about that?
I don't know. It was quite a secret job, I feel like. I don't feel like loads of people knew that I did that.
Just kind of putting on their like...
Well, I would do like the decorating for like their events.
Oh, nice.
So like for Valentine's and New Year's, and I would get in the dancers, and I would look after like the VIP tables and things like that, which again, like makes sense why I fell into that job, because I've taken a lot of those skills into what I do now.
And I guess that's a bit of a step away from House of Fraser into...
And it was, I guess, in a sense, it was like freelance in comparison, because I had a lot more freedom. And then slowly went into freelance from there. But it just always felt right to be freelance, to be honest. I need the freedom. Like the minute I feel like I'm restricted to something, I'll just spaz out and have like, no, you can't make me do anything.
Fair enough. Interesting. I was just thinking about what you just said. So then you went freelance. Did you have a plan in mind, or did you just kind of be like, I don't want to do that stuff anymore?
No, I didn't have a plan. I knew that I could teach dance, so I was always going to go to that first. It's the easiest thing, right?
Sure.
But I didn't know how anything else would pan out, because I don't really feel like I've followed a linear path in anything, so there almost wasn't anyone to look at to see their path and be like, oh, that's how I want to do it. Like I knew that I just had to build my own path. I think that's some of the hardest things for creatives and freelancers, is like we don't have that. Even in people that are doing really similar stuff to us, it's quite different, and everybody makes their money in different ways and in different proportions from different things. And some things are a passion project where other people value different things as well.
So it's kind of hard, I guess, to have a blueprint of how to do this stuff in a way. Very true. But I think it's I don't know. I also feel the opposite of what I just said.
But I feel like that all the time.
It is.
Scrap everything I just said. Let's have another interview. I could start again.
Or I just interview myself. Well, I disagree with you, me. No, but I mean, I think in a way, I mean it in two different ways. Like it is hard to have a blueprint in the sense of, okay, I want to do this specific mix of creative stuff, and I want to do it in this proportion of time for each thing, and I want to make money off it, and I want to do this. And that's hard because there's not many other people that have the same mix that you have. But I guess there is still a lot of business stuff that you can apply, and a lot of structural approaches that you can have to creative work, the same as anything else, the same as being an accountant, same as being a marketer or whatever. But I think I mean, I don't know if you feel the same, but I feel like a lot of artists, I was kind of talking about this on last week's podcast with Dennis. I'm saying last week, but it was the other day, but it's going to be released a week before this one. About social media and stuff like that. And I think we tend to feel a bit of, I guess not shame, but like we don't want to be seen to try and advertise ourselves. I feel like there's this as much as people talk about like people wanting to like fake stuff for social media, for me one of the biggest things is that people want to feel like everything that is coming to them is organic.
Yes.
And they didn't have even like people posting class flyers and stuff like for their dance classes. I feel are a bit like
they want everyone else to do it.
Yeah, they don't want to feel like please come to my class. They want to feel like people just come to my class because they love me, you know. Yeah. And I think that like with a lot of our stuff, it's like, oh, you know, I just put my stuff out into the world and
and it just works.
And it just works. And it came to me, and people hit me up because the work spoke for itself. And it's like, to a certain extent that's true, but to a certain extent we can, not that we have to, but we can advertise ourselves. We can network, we can make contacts, and I think those things work. So I guess was that leading to a question, or am I just talking? I don't know. Who cares? My podcast.
Who cares? Exactly.
But I think, like, do you have any opinions on that? Like, do you feel like at any point
self-promotion
or just, I guess, calculated marketing and advertising and networking, do you ever feel like, oh, I've got to go in? Because I feel like that quite a lot, that when I do things, I'm like, okay, this will help me and blah, blah. And also even just leaving the house and being out and doing stuff brings me way more work than sitting in the house doing stuff. So sometimes I have to go out when I don't want to and go to events, because there's so many times where there's I mean, in our dance scene, there's a lot of people that we all know each other and stuff.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that know that I'm a photographer. So you would think if they need a photographer and they know me and they want to work with me, they'll hit me up. It doesn't quite work like that. No. Like if I'm out at events, people that have been liking my stuff, people that have been inboxing me, whatever, like just on a friend kind of thing, they'll see me in real life and talk and then be like, oh yeah, I want to get some pictures done, let me hit you up. And I'll get work from that, just from being there in real life. Because I guess as much as social media is a big thing, that personal interaction is still a big thing. But then it leads me to kind of be like, okay, I need to like get up and go out, because I don't know who I'm going to run into and have a catch up with that may lead to some work. Or there's so much work that I've got has come from people being like, oh, how's things? And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm doing photography and video and I'm doing these things and I'm working on this. And then they go, oh, I've got a friend that's looking for a photographer. And I'm like, you've had my Instagram this whole time. Like, why is it because we're having this conversation? But it's like that, you know, the networking in that way does help. Especially, and that's not like a forced thing of, I think a lot of people take networking as like...
I struggle with networking though, to be fair. I'm not going to lie.
But in what... Because I think, like what I was going to say, I think a lot of people take networking as kissing ass. And it's like you have to be out there and being like, oh my God, like I'm this... Or like, you know, the elevator pitch thing of like, hello, my name is Deedee and I'm a creative. Would you like to hire me? And it's like, sometimes just being around and talking to people. Yeah,
I'm trying to see it like that. I'm trying to see it as more just socializing now. Yeah. But I do get...
And just being present in people's minds, I guess. That's how I see it.
Like, I love getting into like a genuine conversation with someone that I didn't expect to meet. But I do think if you're going out with the intention to network, to meet people, to speak about yourself, I feel like you're already going into that conversation with an agenda. So it already makes it unnatural.
Yeah, 100%.
And I feel like when the conversations are natural, then I just end up chatting the most shit. Yeah. Like, and I'll say something and like later on I'll be thinking about it and be like, oh, yeah, why did I say that? Yeah, it's so annoying. So I try to not even think about it now. And also just accept as well that sometimes networking is just reaching out to someone on Instagram and just sending them a private message or commenting on a picture. Sometimes that's all it takes. I definitely feel like I actually really appreciate my following on Instagram actually, because I've had this conversation before, which could probably go into like a completely different topic, but
we got no plan here. We're freestyling here up at the Duke London studios. I'm going to talk about females actually, because with females in the creative industry, I do feel like from my observations that if you sell yourself in a particular type of way, and I'm going to say like if you're not wearing much clothing, if you are selling sex in some degree, that it does boost your followers. It's going to boost your engagement. Guys too, I think. Yeah. But I know you're talking about women at the point.
But just in terms of women, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just an angle that I'm aware of. Yeah. And I've not intentionally done the opposite of that, even because I feel like I really don't really show that part of me on my social media. But it's something that even getting into conversation with people that do more of those posts, they say, oh, I just have a bunch of perverts following me. Yeah. That's what a lot of them say. Like, that's true. A lot of them say, oh, it's just a bunch of guys. And then the minute they post a picture of them and their boyfriend, they lose a bunch of followers. Yeah. Or
like I've heard people be like, oh, they... get more likes for like a selfie or something.
Yeah, and I got really obsessive over that because I've posted like a picture maybe of me on holiday and I'm like wearing something that shows more skin than usual, and then everyone's like, oh my god, Deedee's a girl, she's got a body, wow. And it's like, oh my god, that's what was under all those layers of clothing that she wears. But then that always really bugs me because I'm like, oh, you're also predictable, you're also shallow. But it is a very human thing. And what I do like though, opposing to that, is the fact that I have a really great creative base of like following. I feel like everybody that follows me is like really engaged with my work, and that they are there more for the substance rather than just like a shallow, oh, she's gonna post a hot selfie which they're just gonna forget about in a second. They might actually revisit my page again because they want to see the work again, and I much prefer working with substance in mind. So
I think also it's a thing of whether you're going for amount of followers or if you're going for more engagement, which from all the stuff, I mean, I don't know anything about social media, but all the stuff I've been reading and stuff is that the engagement is way more important than the amount of followers, because it's like you can have 20,000 followers and get like 12 likes on your pictures, and then really what are you doing besides having well, it's just the facade, isn't it? That it looks
on the
like
outside.
You've got, and I guess there's ways to leverage that into opportunities, but if you've got a base, like, because how many followers do you have on Insta?
I think I've got just over 2,000.
Right, so it's like compared to someone that has like 20,000, that's not a lot, but you might have all of those people might be more engaged in your work
that person
than someone who, or like you're saying, a girl or a guy who they're there just kind of for the hot selfies or whatever, and that makes the numbers look better, but then it doesn't quite they don't engage as much with the creative work, which I mean, it's just different angles.
But I think it depends on your perspective as well, and like what you want to get out of your work and what you're using Instagram for. Some people just want to, boost their confidence a little bit, and that's fine. I think for me now, it's become more just of an extension of my creativity, and it's also something that keeps me accountable as well. Like sometimes having that platform makes me feel like I not need to do more work, but I want to do more work.
I think, oh man, I'm so like, I
want to see the progression.
I'm sure this is gonna like come up more and more as I do the podcast, but like I'm such an advocate for social media. I think it's fucking dope, and
I think it is as well.
It's such a
I used to hate it though.
I mean, I'm not saying there's no negatives to it. I just think it's an easy target for anyone that wants to feel woke, let's say, or like better than people, and they're oh, I'm quitting social media because I want to get in touch with my real like I'm on social media every day, and I have some legit close fucking friendships with the people I'm around, and like I can sit and have, me and you have had hours of conversations on WhatsApp and in real life, and
sometimes on Instagram and WhatsApp at the same time, because
we like to confuse each other. That stresses me out. Might as well send me an email while we're here. But do you know what I mean? Like, I'm such an advocate for social media, and I think it's very much about how you use it and your mentality behind it. When people are like,
100%.
When people are on, like, I guess the one big thing that people talk about is, it ruins people's like manners, and they don't want to, they can't focus, or they're distracted. It's like, your friends are assholes. It's not social media. There's an addictive side to it, blah, blah, blah. But there's also addictive sides to like cigarettes, but I'm not like blowing smoke in your face every time. Like, I don't smoke, but do you know what I mean? It's like, you know how and when to manage your addictions, I guess, or things that you're into. I love PlayStation, and I'm addicted to PlayStation. I'm not playing it right now, am I? Do you know what I mean? Exactly. I think it's like, if you use it as a tool and to your advantage, and to hold yourself accountable, to feel like, okay, I haven't posted anything, and not like, oh, I'm just going to post whatever, I'm going to do whatever. It's like, oh, this is like a trigger for me to go out and create real stuff, but it comes from the fact that people are watching.
I'm just really passionate about taking responsibility for yourself. Like, you just have to take responsibility. If you are feeling bad about something, take responsibility for that and pull away from it if you're noticing that something's a trigger. But I feel like a lot of people self-sabotage sometimes and do things that they know makes them feel bad. Like, like cigarettes, like all these things.
But then own it and be like, oh yeah, I know I'm feeling shit, but it's my fault.
Exactly.
Don't fucking blame social media.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm passionate about like Instagram being like a really positive place, but that's because I've made it into a positive place.
This is the other thing. That's such a good point. It's like, what you said about your followers, like you don't have a bunch of pervs. Like, I mean, everyone's got a few pervs, even I have, I think, probably. But
I'm sure I've got a few.
But like, I mean, you haven't got a bunch of pervs just only like trying to DM you and blah blah.
Yeah.
You've got people that are actually interested in your work, but because you've stayed consistent in posting that stuff, and you're like, this is who I am.
People know what they're coming for.
Yeah, and they're not gonna come to your thing to perv on hot selfies because you're like, oh, but this is the place for my work. So A, you've curated your following, and B, everybody can curate their news feeds. Like you start Instagram following 0 people. So when people are like, oh yeah, it's so negative seeing Kim Kardashian. Why are you following her?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like...
I unfollow people all the time.
Yeah, and my Instagram is like the fucking most inspirational place.
Yes.
It's like my mood board, you know what I mean? I follow all my friends that are doing dope shit. If a friend... I don't really give a shit about this social dynamic of like... I've had arguments with people because they've been like, why'd you unfollow me? And I'm like, because I don't want to follow you anymore. Like, your Instagram is depressing me and you're just talking shit and I don't agree with what... I'm like, I want to curate a news feed that inspires me, is either not necessarily famous people for the sake of being famous, but, you know, like artists that I look up to and stuff. So when I go on Insta and I scroll, I'm like motivated to do my own shit. I'm motivated to see what my other friends are doing and feel inspired by like peers in my own kind of lane as well. And I don't necessarily think that that's that hard to do. I
think people shouldn't be afraid to unfollow people. Let's just get that out there. Yeah. Don't be afraid to do that, peeps.
Bars. Yeah.
Yeah, like honestly, sometimes I've followed someone because I've really liked their work and then I see their stories and they're really negative and I'm like, oh, fuck off. Yeah. Like, I'll just unfollow because I just don't have time for it. Like, everyone knows there's bullshit every day in the world. Why do you want to subject yourself to more of it when you don't have to? Yeah. So it's just responsibility. Like, but I do understand, like, maybe when you're younger, obviously it's harder to...
Yeah, how old are you my age?
How old are you?
30.
Oh, I'm going to be 30 this year.
Happy birthday. So you're a year younger than me?
I'm going to be 30, like, this month. So when did you...
Oh, so same year. I turned it in October.
Gosh, you've told everyone my age.
No, it's all right.
No, I don't actually care.
You look wonderful for 30.
Thanks. I think so.
Yeah. Being short helps.
Yeah, it actually does, honestly. It really does. Someone said that to me. They were like, oh, you only look young because of how you dress. I was like, oh, you hater. You absolute hater.
But I was listening to
I do get it, though.
Another podcast about this. But it's like, I feel like in creative, especially in like street culture, let's say, like, or this side of the world, this side of that creative world, it's kind of like an almost ageless you might have like 57-year-olds wearing like Supreme tracksuits or something, you know what I mean? And you're like,
which I do like though.
Yeah, I think it's dope, but it's kind of harder to, you don't see the age gaps as much in this in our realm, let's say.
For real.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? Oh, yeah, in terms of the networking stuff, taking a step back from social media, in terms of the networking stuff, because I feel like in the dance scene, you've kind of and I mean from conversations we've had, you've kind of consciously taken a step back and been like, again, like curating what you're around, same as social media, but you've been like, there was stuff in the dance scene and in the like battle scene that wasn't making you happy. So instead of just being like, oh, this is... which I think a lot of people do, like, oh, this is the scene, I've got to deal with it, there's negative sides,
just
blah, blah,
accepting it for what it is.
Yeah, you've been like, no, I'm not and I do that, so like I kind of just take the bad with the good and be like, yeah, fuck it, like that's kind of what the scene is. But I think you, from my perspective, you consciously took a step back and went, no, I'm going to be around what I want to be around, and tough shit kind of thing, I'll make it work from my lane, and I don't want to have to feel like I have to be part of this or show up at this or feel like, I guess, social pressure to fit in to then get work, which I think a lot of people in the creative industry do, of like, if I don't go to this party, if I'm not friends with these type of people, I'm not going to get work. I mean, this is such a thing with dancers that you know, you want to be in the right circles to get work or whatever. But so has that step back affected you working, or is it really, like you were saying about attracting you the right work? Or
I think in the long run it's paying off now, but actually for a long time it was really difficult, and I feel like I got angry in a lot of that journey as well, because you're lost and you don't...
before or after you took a step back?
This was during, like, so after I'd taken that step back. So when I first came into the scene, I was like just naive and, you know, like young. And
how old were you when you first started?
I was like 20, but like when I first like kind of got exposed to like JoJo's and whatever. So I was always speaking to everyone, and you don't really know who anyone is. And like I'm chatty, so I'll be friends with everyone. And I kind of miss that part of me. It's like that innocence when you don't...
And that like... I don't know what the word is, but when you're like, you feel like the dance scene is great and everyone, it's like there's so many friends to be made. Like
exactly. And I was just inspired by absolutely everyone.
Yeah.
Like even the most like mediocre dancer would have been really impressive to me.
Yeah.
And I do miss that innocence and that ignorance, because sometimes when you know too much, it can create a...
And also you've developed personal relationships and people have pissed you off and you're like, you're a great dancer but you're a dick, or I heard this thing about you, and it just kind of tars your image.
Just the glossiness of it starts to wash away after a while, and you start to see things for what they are.
God, we're like making it so depressing for anyone who's a young dancer listening.
Oh no.
Things are going to get terrible
I mean,
for
don't
you.
get me wrong, I loved that time in my life. Like I loved going JoJo's, I loved Trocadero, I loved going back and forth between like, what was the club opposite JoJo's?
Where Joe used to play.
Yeah. What was it called again?
Barumba?
Yeah, that's it. So I used to like cross back and forth between there and like get home at like 6 a.m, and like that was like my life, and I used to love it. And then you start to take it more seriously, and you obviously start to think about your career and your work. And I think that for me, the dance scene became really negative. Yeah. Like, especially if you do start to make waves and you do start to become noticed and people kind of want a piece of you. And that's what it felt like. For those of you that don't know, like I started out with whacking, and like because there wasn't many people doing it in the country, it was easy to get a name, I guess, if you were half decent.
I mean, when we started, I feel like it was like that with a lot of the styles, because the UK used to have a really small underground scene. Yeah,
it was tiny compared to what it is now.
It's got, I always talk about this. In the last 10 years, it's fucking exploded. Yeah, and it's like what it took to become one of the best in your style at that time. And no, I'm not saying this about you.
But I say it about myself. I look back at myself and I'm like, oh my God, I was awful.
But also, I love that, because say even like when I first started doing hip hop, there was maybe like 10 of us. And now it's like what it takes to get through prelims is like way more than what it took back then. I just had to kind of be there.
I mean, I feel like back then you could predict who was going to win before you'd even seen the battles.
But it makes everyone work harder and get better. So the whole scene has got way better now because there's more people in it, just because it's 100%. Bigger competition.
Well, that just makes sense. That's like what happens. But so like I was entering all the battles, and I didn't really have like, you know, any hesitation to enter or anything like that. I was quite like
on it,
always battling, and I did well. Like you know, I was either in the finals or I'd win, and obviously that your name travels very fast in like such a small scene, and people knew who I was. And I'd done whacking for like maybe 1 to 2 years, and I'd got to that level of like, I don't know, status within the scene, and it just started to become like more for other people than it was for myself. People were like pulling me into battles.
I feel like a lot of good battlers feel like that, especially younger ones. I've spoken to even now like some of the younger guys in our scene, and they felt like the pressure of like, I can't lose because I've won. Like,
well, people used to say to me, like there were like whackers at the time that used to say, oh Deedee, you have to enter this battle, you have to represent, there's no way that you can't. And then you'd feel like you've got this like greater responsibility to do certain things.
And I think also this is like maybe another conversation for another time, but how there's like a fake like responsibility to the culture of like, oh, but we have to keep this style alive, or we have to like make sure people know that
people don't know what they're talking about. But also that's just all bullshit.
It's when, I mean, I'm not so much for that, but it's also when that,
I like how I'm just saying that and you're like, Deedee's just cussing.
No, I'm with you in that. Like I don't really give a shit, and I think that's why I say it's more of a conversation for another time. But I think you can't force a culture. A culture is something that happens naturally, and if it's there, it's there. If you're forcing people to, I mean, you can force a culture, and I think again, conversation for another time, but I feel like that's what's happening in a lot of the dance scene, is that we forced cultures, and people are doing things because they don't want to, they're just doing it because I have to pay homage to the
whacking was a forced one,
right? Like, they just wanted it to happen, and maybe there's a few people that care about whatever the style is, but I think when that starts to come at the detriment of what the people in it want, do you know what I mean? Like there's people, there's young dancers who are paying money to fly to other countries, that money that they don't have to go and like go to after parties and stuff, because it's like the party culture of hip hop. And it's like, if that's at the detriment of what your personal life, I don't think you should force that. Maybe 100%. I'm wrong. It's like,
no,
whatever.
I agree.
Just for the sake of keeping a culture alive. It's like the culture will survive if it's meant to survive, and if there's enough people that give a shit about it.
No, it's true.
So I think like when people are like, oh, you have to enter, it's like, fuck off. Like,
well, that's literally what, and I remember the last time I was at Funkin' Styles UK, I think this was like years and years ago, and someone like dragged me up to the side of the stage and were like, go on Deedee, because I remember specifically saying, oh, this time I'm just going to come and watch. And I kind of got dragged up around the side, and then the next day I got like I kind of got voted out in the first round.
Yeah.
And it's not so much who I lost against or anything like that. Like that was never it, but I just felt like it felt very staged and fixed.
Yeah.
And even if it wasn't, just the fact that I felt that was like, that's not how I should be feeling.
Also, if you're not like, it's not to be dismissed how much pressure and how exposing doing battles are. It's quite a tough thing, even though we take it as a bit of fun. And if you're not in the right mental state to be doing a battle, it can knock you big time, especially 100%. When it's something that you're like, the mix between art and sport. It's like, here's my self-expression, and then they go, not good enough, and then they point to the other person. It can be tough, you know. And that's kind of something that I think a lot of people struggle with, and you have to find a way around. But like I was saying, if people are forcing you into it, then you're not in the right space to be doing that. So did that lead you to take a step back? Was it that type of stuff?
Yeah, I think it was that type of stuff, but then also just reflecting on myself, and I was like, I don't feel like my skills are reflecting how much I really want to express. Yeah. So I kind of retreated, and then
because you had developed a skill set suited for like the battle stuff, rather than what you wanted to
and
do.
I felt like it was all pretty much surface level. Like, I don't rate myself as a whacker from back in the day, but a lot of people still hold on to that memory of me, and I'm like, Deedee, you were so sick, like,
but because it's what they wanted to see rather than what you wanted to express.
And then when I went on a real deeper journey and I decided to move away from it and really work on my skills, I get less attention now having gone down that road than I did for when I had a quarter of the skills that I have now, but that was just because I was entering battles and entertaining people for,
you like dilute this.
Yeah, 100%.
But also that's it, like anything, I guess. Like, if you think of the attention that Fast and the Furious gets as opposed to like an independent film that has details and like, you know what I mean? Like, it's the more you dilute something, the more people it can reach, and the more, even though all of us,
it's so true.
Like, all of those people who it's reached are going to go, it was okay, rather than a small amount of people going, oh my God, it's amazing, which I think is kind of a metaphor for you, or analogy.
Oh
metaphor.
God, yeah, that's actually really deep
for you. But I feel like it's like you could dilute yourself and everyone could be like, oh, cool, Deedee. Or you could do what you're doing, and then there's a less amount of people, but they're all going to be like, wow, Deedee. You know what I mean? Which
100%.
I guess also is not to say that one is better than the other.
Reflective in like every single part of my life.
Yeah.
Like with the dance that I do, I feel like it goes over so many people's heads.
Yeah.
And then like with the work that I do, sometimes I'm like, people don't care. But then you can get really bitter about that stuff if you're focused on how it's being received constantly. But I also come back to, humans need to be acknowledged. We need to have feedback. Like, this is something I read about. Like, when you're a child and you're in school, for example, like, you constantly get feedback, right? For every single thing you do, whether it's wrong, bad, like you've done something great, like you get told, oh, well done. Oh no, that wasn't good. Oh, you can do this better. I think when you get a bit older, you don't get that constant feedback. So you end up becoming that person to yourself. And
from a place of probably insecurity and negativity.
Exactly, and not from the nicest and kindest place. So I think it's not always a great thing to focus so much on other people and what they're receiving, and just literally just do you. Like,
and I think I don't know if this is a valid point, but I think any feedback is valid feedback in a way. Like I don't know, from an outside perspective, if I was you, I'd be happy, because there's stuff of yours, and like I feel like you're a good friend of mine, and I really care about you as an artist. And there's some of your projects that I'm like, oh, I love this, and then there's some like, oh, I don't like it as much. But it's not like I don't think it's as good. But it's just normal. Like, oh yeah, this one didn't. Or there'll be like a middle ground where it's like, oh, this I just don't feel either way, or I really don't like that, or I really wouldn't do that the same way, or I really love this, and it's like, for me with my art, I guess, as long as I don't want the middle extreme. I don't want people to look at my pictures and just go, like, I want them to even be like, what the fuck is this? Like,
or amazing.
Like, like those really abstract art pieces where it's like, it's just a white square on a wall, and people are like, I don't get, or the banana. Did you see that? The banana with the duct tape.
Yeah, I've seen
how much reaction that got. I'm like, for me, that's sick, because it's like, even if it's negative, it's like, what the fuck is this banana on the wall? That's bullshit. That's not art. Blah, blah. It's like, but you're fucking reacting. So that's dope. Like, or if people love it and they think it's genius, that's dope. If they just went, oh yeah, cool.
that's the shit
and just
place
walked,
to be
looked at it
as
and
an
nodded
artist.
and walked
Yeah.
past. It's like,
yeah.
as an artist, I feel like that's kind of shit. So I think it's like, I guess finding the positivity even in someone reacting negative to your work. If that makes sense.
To be honest, I don't mind that.
Yeah.
I feel like I get received negatively and positively all the time.
Yeah.
Like, especially in the dance scene as well. I feel like there's well, I don't know. Like I said this to you just before we started filming. I was like, I feel like sometimes I probably come across as a right bitch to some people that don't know me, like because sometimes
It's
like,
been a long time since I didn't know you, so I don't know.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I could be totally off. Like, I have no idea. But
There's people listening that are like, no, she's right.
yeah, she's right. Yeah, you are a bitch.
I only listen to this because she's an arsehole.
But sometimes I'm aware of that energy that can be perceived in a different way than actually where it's coming from, which is just me keeping myself to myself, and also
simultaneously being opinionated. I think it's the mix. It's like you stay away and you're opinionated, so it's kind of like, don't know.
And I'd rather not be fake.
Yeah.
And I'd rather not. Yeah. And also I'm quite sensitive actually, so I don't always want to be in conversation with people, and I feel like in the industry sometimes you made to feel like you have to always be like talkative and like always switched on, and I'm like, no, I'm just having a bit of a shit day. Like, I don't want to come over and hug you when you're sweating and you're dancing. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Like,
and when people ask you about stuff and you're like, you don't care, and I don't care about telling you, so I don't want to have this conversation.
Let's just all be real to ourselves, guys. Yeah.
But I actually think that's why I get on with you really well. Like, I mean, there's not every conversation we have we agree on, or we were just saying this before as well, that we don't.
We're so different, and
we're so different, and like we have different approaches to stuff. We have different approaches to art, even like stuff like spirituality and stuff. I'm very like not in the same, or I don't think the same way, I guess, as you. Yeah. But it's I like that because I'm like maybe this is just speaking for me, but I'm sure it can't just be me that feels like this. But I take comfort in that because I know where I stand with you at all times.
Yes.
And that makes me feel good. Like, I don't like people that are, it stresses me when someone is too nice to everyone, because I'm like, I don't know what you really think about me. And if I say something and you go, oh, that's a good point, I'm like, do you think that's a good point or not? And then I get stressed internally. So with you, I'm like, if I've said something that's bullshit or offensive or you don't agree with or you think I'm being a dummy, like for want of a better word, you dummy, you're gonna tell me, do you know what I mean? And you're gonna be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, no, that's bullshit, or no, what, like that's a fucked up way of thinking. And then I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, that's
I just feel like I can be myself. Like, that's how I judge it. Like, with my friendship with you and like with anybody else, I don't judge the person, but I just value. Did I just touch your foot?
You did. That was weird. It created a weird moment.
But I just judge it by how I act around that person. If I'm just being myself, then I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, me too. 100%.
Cool.
And it's like more of a natural thing. If I'm like, you notice it halfway through a conversation, like, oh, I'm myself. Like, I'm not putting on a front, or I'm not feeling like I have to lie or something.
And then you probably say things that you shouldn't say, or you know.
I mean, that's the problem.
The jokes go a bit too far.
With doing this with people you're comfortable with, I'm like, oh shit, everything's being recorded. But, oh well.
I feel like we could talk about so many different things. It's stressing me out a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to have to wrap soon. It's like an hour and a bit. But yeah, like, I mean, this is good. We can always come back.
Let's do a part 2.
Yeah. But no, it's true. I don't even know why we started talking about that.
I don't know either. This might not make any sense to anyone.
Yeah, but
I'm not going to lie.
Well,
has it made any sense what we've been speaking about?
I've been in and out of Call of Duty.
Cool. So our producer is still playing Call of Duty, hasn't listened to a thing we're saying, hasn't paid attention to the camera.
Been useless.
If the camera angles are off, we know who to blame.
Yes. Oh my God, imagine.
But yeah.
I've been recording for the first 15 minutes.
Cool. This is terrible.
After that, so
I love this. But it's all good. Anyway, should we wrap?
Yeah, it's up to you.
We can have another cup of coffee and keep talking after.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, just because we'll keep it to the time limits, and then we'll see. If you want a longer podcast, if you want a shorter podcast, please leave comments and tell me if you know me.
Yeah.
And if you want Deedee to talk more, or if you want her to shut up more.
I actually want to start a YouTube channel, which I have done for a while.
Oh yeah, let's do this. This is maybe something we should do. Is there anything coming up that you're doing that you want to promote? I mean, I'm not saying I have a huge following that you're going to get all sorts of stuff, but just in case people are listening, anything you want to talk about or tell people that's coming up?
No, just look at my Instagram.
That worked well. Glad I set that up.
Yeah. Oh gosh, no, I'd just say just check out my Instagram. There's all the stuff on there. I'm
Yeah.
always, I've got things in the making, but
Nothing you're trying to put
nothing
out at the moment. What about your classes?
Yes, I do teach, but that's at gym box, so
It's not open classes.
well, yeah, like I mean,
This segment has become a failure immediately.
this is just really failed. I mean, I teach at gym box, but yeah, if you like what I do, then just contact me because
Yeah.
then we'll just have a conversation.
Slide in them DMs, yo.
Yeah. Oh my God.
All right. Well,
Thanks
appreciate
for
you-
having me.
Oh, mate, appreciate you coming through. This was lovely.
Yeah, it was lovely. My
Let's-
tea's cold now, so can I have another tea? Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Let's
guys.
get some assistance. And just shout out to our sponsor for today is Nike.
Oh, yeah.
It's not, but if Nike want to send me stuff.
Well, I got sent stuff by
Yeah, I saw that by Fila. What was that about?
Oh yeah, I'm part of their influencer database now.
So are Fila going to be listening to this?
I don't know.
Am I gonna
Shall
get
we tag
feelers?
Fila?
Yeah, let's tag Fila.
Get Luke some feelers.
I'm just like, the thing is, I've always loved Fila. I think
Yeah, they're actually
they're probably the
gangster.
best company that has ever existed. And you know,
They're
not
so old school. Look at you chatting shit. No,
no,
they are great.
they are dope. But you know, if they
But he's like, no, Nike.
if Deedee does get them to listen and they want to sponsor the podcast, I'll wear Fila. I'll wear full head to toe Fila.
Such
I'll wear a
little tart.
Fila earrings and get Fila headphones and I don't give a shit. I'll take free shit
Right.
all day.
Let's do a makeover after this.
Shall we?
Let's get the lipstick out. Come on then.
Are you doing a makeover of me?
Yep.
Are you saying I'm not beautiful? All right. Well, if you got this far, thanks for listening.
Thanks.
And
Hopefully there's
see
something
you
useful
next
in
week. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe there is.